the judge Ashley Royal made a statement that he thinks the letters that I put in to start the proceedings for filing against this firm, the Garland Law Firm, for ineffective counsel, he said he thinks it's a ploy that I just started that day.
On the torture end of it, he was constantly denied sleep and constantly questioned and harassed for 24 hours straight
through the night
prior to making the plea. So he made that plea under duress.
Even in the beginning, the plea, Garland came to him because I don't know if a lot of people know, but the Garland firm is known for plea deals.
Plea agreement. Before I already said I don't trust them, I don't want to work with them, and they just kept hiding. They actually shackled me and made me come out to the phone. They would actually come to me and put me in shackles and drive me to the phone and talk to Garland while he reiterates, "You must take a plea. It's better for you to take a plea. You know, since you're suffering like this, you're facing 1,000 years. I'll never be able to win this case. I've had cases like this before. Why let these other girls suffer? Why do these people suffer? Don't think about yourself. If you was my son, that I would do this for you. I would tell you to do this." He was working all the time with them, and I knew it. Because I knew they had no case. I knew there was no such thing as no videos. I knew the witness they talked about. I knew this was all a big plot.
Garland basically comes to him like, "You need to take this plea." He works out a plea deal with the prosecution. Prosecution's like, "We'll let all the other people go if he takes this plea." Doc Stark's like, "No, we'll just fight it. We can fight it. We can win it. We can win it."
And he didn't want to fight this case because he was made a deal with them. Took over $1.5 million, as I'm told by my sister, in cash money from our tribe, and just flaunted it and didn't even use it. Never intended on having a trial, but intended to put their bogus plea. But they knew I wasn't going to take a plea, so they had to torture me into taking a plea.
Kathy Johnson, Khadijah Merritt, Chandra Lumpkin, and Astaire Cole was originally on the indictment as victims, stating nothing ever happened. Once they agreed not to become co-conspirators against York, they became co-defendants along with him.
Now you have to think, these are mothers that were taken away from their children. Chandra Lumpkin's daughter was still breastfeeding. She not even a year old, a baby, and put in jail. Khadijah Merritt's son, about 3 years old. Yeah, you know, or Kathy Johnson, who suffers. She has a hereditary illness where, you know, she needs medical help, not to be sitting in a jail cell.
I was told that they were being treated the same way I'm treated. That means I was sleeping on a concrete floor with real poor, bad food, wasn't getting my medication, watching rats and roach bugs and stuff, in the midst of very dangerous criminals. Know that Kathy suffering from MS, which is a very, very dangerous disease. I said, they're not giving me my medicine. Hers is brain deteriorating. She'll be crippled for life. They use that, not to mention starvation, sleep degradation, when they kept waking me up, no allowed to the telephone calls, interfere with my mail, you know, definitely a poor diet, a whole bunch of things, and just outright vulgar and physical abuse.
The last straw was when Rochelle York came with the attorneys, and the attorney said, "Okay, look, final, this is the deal. They'll let everybody go. You'll be able to speak to your people one more time, and you have to tell them that everything that you've taught for 30 years was a lie. Take the deal." They kept battling that. This is why it took a week. It was like, no, forget it. Dr. York is just like, they're all in jail because somebody is angry at me. And so, what choice did he have? Their lives were pendulent upon him agreeing to a guilty plea. It was a setup. It was a setup from the door. So once the government didn't take the plea, they didn't take the plea because during the plea deal, which is in the transcripts, the judge involved himself in it, like gave an idea which would be a better amount of time to give Dr. York. And that's biasness. And that's when Lawson took himself off of the case, because he showed complete biasness by involving himself, giving his opinion on Dr. York.
we began to probe, we found out that Sheriff Sills controls the Eaton Messenger. You're not going to get it a fair disclosure or an objective disclosure of the case against Dr. York through the Eaton Messenger. You weren't going to get it through the Macon Telegraph. You weren't going to get it through Channel 24. You weren't going to get it through Channel 13. These are all the major media mediums of Central Georgia. You weren't going to get it out of them because of either Sheriff Sills or the rest of the good old boy circuit's influence over these networks or newspapers or radio stations or what have you.
Adrian Patrick was eager to do it. He was like, okay, I'll prepare us for trial then.
But the key thing with him is he came in December 17th?
Right, like with 2 weeks.
He came in December 17th, 2003.
Mm-hmm.
The trial ended up being January of 2004. So when he came on and Aurora and the Garland firm was released, he requested a continuance because he needed time to prepare for trial. He needs to go. There are boxes and boxes and boxes of discovery material full of files. Because mind you, this is from 2002 to the winter of 2003. There's tons of court documents. It's a very complex case. Witnesses to interview. All these things go into preparation for trial. And he was expected to do all that basically in a month and a half span. So he requested a continuance, and it was denied. So automatically from the door coming into the trial, Dr. York was placed at an enormous disadvantage because he had to cram in a year and a half worth of work in weeks.
See, the public don't know this. The judge called them in chamber and turned to Reverend York and said, I knew you were going to pull something like this. Why do you care? You're supposed to be an objective observer in a situation where he'll be tried by his peers. They made him go forward with the trial. Here's the trick the judge played. He said, I'm not going to let you release Manny Aurora. How are you going to tell Dr. York? He's saying, I don't want this guy. This guy is not working in my best interest. The Constitution protects my right to legal counsel, who's obligated to fight on my behalf. This guy ain't got a witness ready 7 days before trial. He needs to go. The judge says no. And that was a game they played to not allow the continuance. Then as soon as the trial started, the judge allowed Manny Aurora off the case.
Witnesses who came forward to testify regarding the conspiracy involving Jake York, people who were on the trip to South Beach where the whole plot was formulated, people who lived in the house with Jake, who were a party to all these plans, weren't even allowed to testify because they knew if they testified, they're not even going to allow the conspiracy in because that's the key to the whole case. That blows the case wide open. That's something the media doesn't want anybody to know. The judges and the prosecution doesn't want anybody to know. That would have been blown wide open. They're not allowed to testify.
Jacob York was very upset at his father, and I know that's why he told the government that his father, was wrong and was molesting children so that he could obtain money from his father because he was out there doing illegal activities, illegal identification, birth certificates, or what have you. Also, he was a record producer, not a very good one because he's always having problems with his artists, but yet and still, he was upset with his father, which didn't make any sense. Unfortunately, his mother had passed, peace be with her, but he shouldn't have been mad at his father, Dr. Malachi Z. York, because he had nothing to do with it.
The testimonies of the alleged victims was ridiculous. The lack of evidence. 8 out of 13 alleged victims in the indictment testified that nothing happened to them. 6 of the 7 who were said to have been molested currently during the time of the arrest of Dr. York testified for Dr. York. 5 of them were proven by state agencies and judge order to have been completely not abused in no way, shape, or form, physically, mentally, sexually. They testified on behalf of Dr. York. The lead prosecution witness recanted her story. What more did the world need to see that this man has been completely